Every morning is not just the beginning of a new day. It is an opportunity, a moment handed to you freely by life itself. And the question is not whether you will receive this moment. The question is, what will you do with it? Most people, they open their eyes and continue exactly where they left off. Same thoughts, same habits, same energy. Every morning, when your eyes open to the light of a new day, you are given more than just another set of hours. You are given an opportunity, one that is pure, unspoiled, and full of potential. The moment before the world rushes in with its noise, distractions, and responsibilities is a sacred one. It is a brief window in which you are closest to your true self, unshaped by the demands of the day, untouched by the expectations of others. This is the time where your intentions have power. This is the time where direction can be set. And yet, most people allow this opportunity to slip away unnoticed. They wake up not with purpose, but with habit. They reach for their phone before they reach for their breath. They check what others are doing before they check in with themselves. And in doing so, they abandon the most sacred part of the day, the beginning. The morning is not just the start of a day, it is a mirror. It reflects the way you approach life. If you begin in a rush, you carry stress. If you begin in silence, you carry clarity. The way you start often shapes everything that follows. And so, to truly improve, to truly grow, the morning must be honored. It must be treated not as a leftover part of your life, but as the foundation of it. A calm, intentional start can do what no external motivation can. It can center you. It can direct you. It can remind you of who you want to become, not just what you have to do. Improvement begins in the unseen, in the quiet. Before any action is taken, there is thought. Before thought, there is presence. If you want to improve even 1% each day, it begins by being present in the morning. It begins with asking yourself what matters today. It begins by deciding what kind of energy you want to bring into the world, what kind of attitude you will choose, what kind of person you are working to become. These are not questions to answer in the middle of chaos. They are questions that need space, stillness, breath. That is why the morning is sacred. Improvement is not always about doing more. It is about doing what matters. And in the morning, before the noise arrives, before the world begins to pull at you, you have the power to choose what matters. This is when your mind is most open. This is when your spirit is most quiet. This is when you are most aligned with truth. Even a few moments spent in reflection can shift your entire path. A single thought of gratitude, a single moment of stillness, a single stretch of the body. These things, done consistently, are not small. They are profound. They are the roots of a stronger self. The world will always try to rush you. It will always tell you there is something urgent, something pressing. But if you give yourself fully to that urgency, you will never create space for growth. You will live in reaction, not creation. The morning is your shield against this. It is the time where you decide how you will respond, how you will show up, how you will evolve. That is why it must be protected. That is why it must be treated with care, with reverence. Because in that short time after waking, you are not yet who the world wants you to be. You are who you choose to be. You are free, briefly, from influence. And it is in this freedom that real transformation begins. Small, intentional actions are often dismissed because they don't appear powerful in the moment. People tend to look for dramatic change, something that feels like a breakthrough, a revolution, a sudden leap from where they are to where they want to be. But the truth is, real transformation doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It shows up quietly, in the form of small decisions made consistently. One better choice, one more focused breath, one step taken instead of avoided. These are the foundations of lasting change. Not grand declarations, but steady commitment. Not perfection, but progress. When you decide to improve by just 1% every day, you embrace the principle of compound growth. A principle that works not just in finance or business, but in meaning mindset, discipline, and character. The person who wakes up and drinks water instead of caffeine, who reads for 10 minutes instead of scrolling endlessly, who stretches for 5 minutes instead of lying in bed, that person is setting a course for a better future. These acts may look small from the outside, but inside, something powerful is shifting, a new identity is forming, a new pattern is taking root. Intentionality is the key, because it's not just about what you do, it's about why you do it. Brushing your teeth in the morning is a routine, but doing it while reminding yourself that you care about your health, your appearance, your self-respect, that transforms a task into a ritual. And this is the secret to daily growth, turning your routines into rituals through presence and purpose. When you move through your morning with intention, even the smallest acts become seeds. Seeds of who you are becoming. Seeds that, when watered daily, grow into habits that define your life. The modern world praises hustle, business, speed. But what it often misses is the power of consistency. Anyone can sprint for a short while, but those who grow and evolve over time are the ones who walk with purpose every day. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They don't wait for the perfect time. They use what they have. Even if it's just 5 minutes of focus, even if it's just one mindful breath before the day begins. These moments are not wasted. They are invested. Improvement doesn't require suffering or drastic sacrifice. It requires honesty and commitment. It requires waking up and asking, what is one small thing I can do today to move forward? Can I sit still before speaking? Can I listen fully to someone I love? Can I resist one urge that leads me backward? These actions don't make headlines, but over time they make character. They shape integrity. They build resilience. Because every time you choose intention over impulse, you become stronger than you were yesterday. It's important to remember that your life is not built in one day. It is built every day. And most of that building happens in the quiet, in the early hours, in the choices no one sees. That's where your power is. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not in what you promise, but in what you practice. And so, to transform your life, you don't need to do everything. You just need to do something. Something that aligns with your values. Something that aligns with your goals. Something that reminds you that you are not stuck. You are in motion. And that motion, even if small, is sacred. Discipline is not something you find in the middle of the day when chaos surrounds you. It is not something that arrives in moments of pressure or when everything feels urgent. Discipline begins quietly. It begins in the early hours, when the world is still and the only voice you hear is your own. This is the moment where a choice is made. Not a loud or dramatic choice, but a subtle one. A choice to rise instead of roll over. A choice to move your body instead of making excuses. A choice to be aware instead of automatic. That is where true discipline is born, not in the outcomes, but in the origin of your day. The first decisions you make in the morning set the rhythm for everything that follows. If the mind is allowed to wander without control, it will seek comfort. If the body is allowed to rest past its time, it will resist movement. Discipline is not just about pushing through discomfort. It's about recognizing when you are letting ease dictate your actions. It's about confronting the small inner voice that says, just 5 more minutes, and replying with stillness, not indulgence. The battle is not with the world, it is with the self. And it begins the moment you open your eyes. When you rise with discipline, you are not just preparing for the day, you are shaping who you are. You are building identity through action. Each time you follow through on your promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce that you are someone who keeps their word. That trust in yourself is the foundation of confidence. You don't need approval from others when you have alignment with yourself. And that alignment begins in the silence of your morning habits. What you do first is what your mind learns to prioritize. If the first thing you do is reach for distraction. Then distraction becomes the pattern. If the first thing you do is sit in stillness, breathe deeply, or engage your body in movement, then presence and control become the pattern. These are not just tasks, they are training. They are your daily chance to prove that you are stronger than your impulses. Because the world will pull you in every direction, but discipline anchors you. It gives you a direction, a compass. It reminds you that you are in charge of your time, your energy, and your effort. People often think discipline is a punishment, but it is actually freedom. The freedom to be consistent, the freedom to act with clarity, the freedom to respond, not react. It is not about denying yourself what you enjoy. It is about giving yourself what you need, even when it is not easy. The first hour of the day teaches your mind whether it is being led or whether it is drifting. And when you lead it with purpose, it learns to follow. You don't need motivation when you have discipline. Motivation fades. It comes and goes with mood, with weather, with circumstances. But discipline is steady. It doesn't ask how you feel. It reminds you who you are. That reminder comes strongest in the morning, when you have the chance to decide how you will show up, before the world distracts you. Those first choices, those first movements, those first thoughts, they are your training ground. They are the place where your character is forged, your will is sharpened, your path is chosen. This is not something to rush through. It is something to respect, to protect, to honor each day without exception. Improving by 1% each day may seem like an insignificant goal, but it holds the power to create transformation beyond what most can imagine. The mind often craves big leaps, fast progress, dramatic results, but those expectations rarely align with reality. True growth happens in the background. It unfolds slowly, steadily, and often without applause. One small improvement compounded over time becomes a completely new way of being. It is not the speed of progress that matters, but the direction and the consistency. One drop of water seems meaningless, but many drops over time can carve stone. One small action might look invisible today, but done every day, it reshapes who you are becoming. The reason why so many people fail to evolve is because they underestimate the power of small wins. They dismiss the 1% gains as too little, too slow, not impressive enough. But what they don't see is how these tiny acts accumulate. One positive habit leads to another. One clear thought creates space for deeper reflection. One moment of patience today builds stronger control tomorrow. And the beauty of 1% improvement is that it does not require perfection. It does not demand you to change your whole life at once. It simply asks for effort. Just enough to be better than yesterday. Just enough to grow your awareness. Just enough to step forward instead of standing still. This kind of growth is internal first. You might not see the results immediately in your surroundings, but something shifts inside. You begin to develop a sense of self, respect that cannot be given by anyone else. You feel yourself becoming more centered, more in control, more capable. The changes are subtle, like a tree growing slowly. You don't see it move, but one day, it stands taller than you ever imagined. That is the nature of daily progress. Invisible at first, undeniable later. The path to mastery in any area of life begins with small steps. Whether it's the mind, the body, or the spirit, growth is earned through repetition. You become skilled not by doing something once, but by doing it daily, improving slightly each time. And that improvement builds momentum. The more you grow, the more you want to grow. The more you act, the more you trust yourself. That trust becomes fuel, and that fuel drives you forward even on the days you don't feel like moving. This is where discipline and consistency meet. This is where transformation becomes inevitable. Many people wait for the perfect moment to start changing. They wait for the ideal conditions, for motivation, for external permission. But those who grow understand that the perfect moment is the one you're in. It's not about having more time. It's about using the time you already have. It's not about doing everything right. It's about doing something right. That's what 1% improvement looks like. It's a choice made in the present, with the future in mind. This mindset also brings peace. When you're focused on just being a little better than you were, there is no pressure to impress, no anxiety about speed, no obsession with results. The goal becomes the process itself. The reward becomes the feeling of becoming. And the longer you live this way, the more you realize that greatness is not built in peaks, but in layers. Layers of effort, layers of awareness, layers of small, intentional improvements stacked day after day. It is quiet, it is humble, but it is also unstoppable. In a world that constantly demands attention, noise becomes the default. The mind is flooded with information, opinions, and distractions from the moment you wake up. But within all of this, there is something that remains powerful, yet often forgotten: silence, reflection, self-awareness. These are not luxuries, they are necessities for those who wish to grow. Strength is not only built in action, but also in stillness. To improve even a little every day, you must create space to understand yourself. Not just who you are in the eyes of the world, but who you are when everything external is stripped away. That clarity only comes when you stop, breathe, and listen, not to others, but to your own inner voice. Most people wake up and immediately fill the silence with sound. Music, messages, headlines, tasks, all pouring in before their mind has even settled. But growth doesn't happen in noise. It happens in the quiet moments when you're able to face yourself without filters. Self-awareness is the ability to see clearly, not just what you're doing, but why. Not just what you think, but where those thoughts come from. And the morning is the perfect time to reconnect with that awareness. Before the world has a chance to influence your direction, you must find it for yourself. A few minutes of silence can become the most powerful part of your day. Sitting still, breathing deeply, not trying to change anything, just observing. This simple act brings your attention back to the present moment. And in the present, everything is possible. That's where choice lives. That's where intention begins. It's not about being perfect in your thoughts. It's about being honest with them. Recognizing the patterns that no longer serve you. Seeing the emotions that have been pushed aside. Understanding the beliefs that guide your behavior without your permission. When you become aware of these things, you can begin to work with them instead of being controlled by them. Self-awareness is the root of all meaningful change. Without it, you are just reacting. With it, you start responding. Responding to life with clarity instead of confusion. Responding to challenges with wisdom instead of fear. And that shift changes everything. Even your smallest habits begin to carry deeper meaning. You no longer act out of routine, but out of purpose. You no longer chase what looks good, but move toward what feels aligned. This internal strength builds slowly, but once it begins, it's very hard to shake. Reflection is the tool that sharpens awareness. Asking yourself simple questions: how did I show up yesterday? What energy did I carry into my conversations? What thought held me back the most? What part of me is still afraid to change? These are not questions with instant answers. They are questions that unfold over time. But asking them consistently keeps your inner world awake. It prevents you from falling asleep in your habits. And when your inner world is awake, your outer actions begin to shift with it. Improving yourself 1% every day does not always mean doing more. Sometimes it means doing less. Less reacting, less assuming, less escaping. Sometimes the greatest improvement is found not in adding something new, but in noticing what no longer belongs. That kind of growth is invisible to others at first, but you will feel it. You'll notice your reactions slow down. Your words become more intentional. Your mind begins to rest in places where it used to panic. This kind of strength isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It simply arrives quietly through daily practice and begins to change everything from the inside out. Consistency is what transforms effort into outcome. In the beginning, motivation may help you start, inspiration may ignite your will, but only consistency has the power to carry you forward when emotions fade, when days feel heavy, when progress seems invisible. Many begin with strong intentions, but only those who learn the quiet discipline of showing up every day, no matter how they feel, truly change over time. And that change is not always immediate. It doesn't demand attention. It works silently in the background, shaping your character through repetition, molding your future through the habits you choose to repeat. In a world driven by instant gratification, the power of steady progress is often overlooked. People want results now. They want transformation without process. But nature does not work that way. A tree does not grow tall in a day. The sun does not rise suddenly. The river does not carve the mountain through force, but through persistence. These are the rhythms of nature, and they are also the rhythms of real personal growth. Consistency may seem slow, but it is unbreakable. What is done daily becomes who you are. What is repeated becomes your reality. The smallest action, repeated long enough, carries more weight than the biggest action done once. Perfection is a trap. It creates pressure. It makes you hesitate, but consistency gives you freedom. It says you don't need to get it all right today. You just need to show up. You just need to try again. Some days will feel powerful, others will feel quiet and small, but each day is a step. And those steps begin to form a path. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. The clearer it becomes, the easier it is to keep walking. This is how momentum is built, not through bursts of energy, but through daily movement. When you commit to improving 1% each day, you give yourself permission to grow without the pressure of proving. You remove the burden of sudden success and replace it with a rhythm that honors both effort and patience. This rhythm teaches you to trust the process even when the results are not yet visible. It teaches you that the journey itself is the reward. You begin to realize that change is not something you chase, it is something you build. Through presence, through awareness, through repetition, consistency is a form of self-respect. When you show up for your growth, again and again, regardless of how you feel, you're telling yourself that you matter. You're affirming that your time and your energy are valuable. That message is powerful. It rewrites the way you see yourself. It strengthens the relationship between who you are and who you are becoming. And over time, the line between those two begins to fade. The process of daily improvement doesn't need to be dramatic. It might be 10 minutes of silence in the morning, a few pages of reading, a moment of honest reflection, a small act of discipline. But what matters most is not the size of the effort. It is the fact that it is done again and again. That repetition becomes rhythm. That rhythm becomes identity. That identity becomes a life built not on randomness, but on intention. Many will wonder how you changed. They will look for some secret, some shortcut. But the answer is simple and unremarkable. You changed because you stayed. You stayed with the discomfort. You stayed with the practice. You stayed with the small choices, long enough for them to build something real. And what they built was not just results, but resilience, not just success, but stability. This is the power of consistency. It takes the smallest action and turns it into the strongest foundation. Every morning brings a choice. To remain as you were yesterday, or to take one step closer to who you are meant to be, not through force, not through perfection, but quiet commitment. Through 1% improvement. The path is not fast, and it is not loud. It is built in silence, in intention, in repetition. Small actions guided by clarity. Simple decisions rooted in discipline. When you honor your mornings, you honor your future. When you choose growth, no matter how small, you reshape your entire direction. Let others chase speed, you build strength. Let others seek shortcuts, you follow the path. 1% at a time, every morning, relentlessly, quietly, unshakably.